السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم نحمده ونصلي على رسوله الكريم أما بعد. سبحانك لا علم لنا إلا ما علمتنا إنك أنت العليم الحكيم. رب اشرح لي صدري ويسر لي أمري واحلل عقدة من لساني يفقهوا قولي. سبحانك لا علم لنا إلا ما علمتنا إنك أنت العليم الحكيم. Brothers and sisters, welcome to our weekly program, Got Questions with Children of Adam. We are grateful, we are thankful to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for giving us this opportunity and being able to spend some time together, inshallah, to really, get to know our deen properly, get to know what our Quran and Sunnah tells us, and be able to follow that into our life. Assalamu alaikum, Mufti Abdullah Sahab. How are you?
Alhamdulillah, how's everything?
I'm doing well, alhamdulillah. I know that you have a time crunch and you have your tafsir session
Yes,
today as well.
I'm going to leave around 9:20, inshallah.
Inshallah. So before we get the questions coming in, what's your tafsir topic for tonight?
Tonight, Surah Ar-Rahman. I'm gonna start it, inshallah.
Wow. So have you begun from the beginning of the tafsir or selected surahs?
No, it was selected surahs. So we've been going on for about, I would say, more than six months to a year now. I can't remember exactly when we started. So we went over the last 10 surahs already, one surah per week. Then we went over Surah Yasin. That was about 10 weeks. We went over Surah Jinn because the kids like Jinn, so I thought might as well do that. Then for the past 2 weeks, we've been going over surah, like the beginning portion of Surah Al-Isra, Palestine, Jerusalem, and information about that. And today, inshallah, I thought Surah Al-Isra is too long of a surah to start. And Surah Ar-Rahman is something where everyone can connect with it. So I like doing those surahs which everyone knows, everyone has a connection with, at least right now. Then once the attendance start to stabilize or go up, inshallah, then I'm thinking of starting from the beginning, so we can at least do it in a formal manner, inshallah.
So when you go over the portions of the Quran and tafsir, do you go through the deep tafsirs, linguistic meanings, or how much do you try to cover? Okay.
No, it's just half an hour. I don't want to confuse everyone because not all the people there have an Arabic background or even a little bit. Some people that attend the class have absolutely no Arabic background. Sometimes it's difficult for them to read Fatiha as well. So I try to keep it as simple as possible, as English as possible. Translate all the verses, translate the meanings, the points are all in English. I try to do it as easy as possible for everyone so they can at least have something. I don't want them to be sitting there for 20 minutes and I'm talking about the word and fa'ala, fa'alu, and it's just going through one ear, coming out the other.
So I love the concept that you mentioned, the last 10 surahs of the Quran, because usually most people know them by heart and they recite these surahs in their prayer most often. And if someone actually knows the commentary, a little bit of tafsir of it and the meaning of it, it becomes so much fruitful for individuals to really focus in their salah and their prayers.
Yeah, definitely. That was the whole purpose, because we read these surahs all the time. I mean, even us, our favorite surah is Kawthar and Ikhlas. So going over those surahs, and it's when I say going over those surahs, I don't mean like going into each and every single word and explaining that, not even the linguistic, just going into each and every single word, explaining each and every single word separately. No, I try to keep it as general as possible, but still go through the lessons in each verse or in every 2 or 3 verses.
The final question before we change to the topic, if for example, the people who join you in your tafsir sessions and they ask you for their own personal reading of tafsir, for example, students or individuals or congregants. So what do you usually recommend for people who are joining your tafsir, or for those who are joining us online now, that if they would want to read a little bit, of course, the best is to sit in the company of scholars, learn that tafsir, learn its meaning, because there's so much complications and of course so much benefit in the company of scholars. But if someone wants to spend some time with the book, tafsir or commentary, what would you recommend for the people?
Which book?
Which tafsir, would you recommend for them to go through maybe the last 10 surahs of the Quran?
Oh, so if they're just starting off, then keep it as simple as possible. Don't try to jump into like Tafsir al-Qurtubi or Tafsir al-Razi or Alusi. I mean, for one verse, they have 5, 10 pages of tafsir. So you want to keep it as simple as possible. One of the simplest tafsir is Tafsir ibn Kathir and Tafsir Ma'arif al-Quran. Both of these are very, very simple, and both of them are translated into English. So stick with one of these two, or even both. They both have different content, but the message is the same in both, obviously.
Jazakallah khairan. Ziaddin Bhai, assalamu alaikum as well. He's sending his salams. Ziaddin Bhai is amazing. We had some amazing time with him in the camping trip. He does amazing with our youth and families. So may Allah reward him and bless him. Mufti Muasab, assalamu alaikum rahmatullah.
Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. How are you?
How are you? How's everything?
Alhamdulillah.
Good to see you, Mufti Saab. Before the questions come in, I get one of this question a lot these days, and I wanted to touch base with you with regards to this question is, what is a mufti, right? I know that this is just, a very simple question, but I've been getting this question a lot recently. So, what entails or what sort of responsibility does this individual has? Because this is a huge responsibility from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So when people talk about this authority or this individual as a mufti, people ask me, and I've been doing these sessions in the school, and people have been asking, how do we simplify or inform our youngsters or people who ask that, what is this task or this responsibility, if you can shed some light on it?
Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Mufti comes from the word fatwa, or fatwa comes from the word afta yufti ifta'an, which means to ask a question. So a mufti is a person who specializes in legal law, in fiqh, and is thereafter authorized by his teachers. He trains with his teachers, and they authorize him to issue legal verdicts after having gained confidence in him. So there is no, in our times we have a set course, but in previous times they didn't have a set course. They would study and stay in the company of their teachers for as long as the teacher felt it needed, and then the teacher would authorize them to start answering questions or start issuing legal verdicts.
SubhanAllah. So Mufti, as if muftis and scholars, when they give verdicts, is it appropriate to have at least few people sign on the documents to sign off as a legal verdict? Do we need requirements of at least one or two individuals? How does the process actually work?
It depends on depends on the question, to be honest. Some questions may be sufficient with one. Some questions may require a team or a board of scholars.
Sure. So I know I get this question a lot when people do ask this. So it's once you're done with your studies of becoming a scholar or alim, and you go through this rigorous course of 5, 6, 7, 8 years, then there's specific specialization that a person puts themselves where they put a lot of effort in making sure that they're able to answer these questions. And of course, as you mentioned, they have to work along with experts in the field before they're able to issue these verdicts themselves. The question Brother Kevin asks is, what is the time frame for becoming a mufti?
There is no set time frame. It's when the teacher feels that he feels confident in authorizing you and passing the chain on to you, that you can now issue verdicts. But most commonly, the courses are set for 2 years. Some places are 3 years. Some places do have shorter programs, but average is 2 years.
So these 2 years or 3 years are post-graduation, meaning you have to go through an initial 6 to 8 year program in order to do this post-graduation program. And I know that in different institutions, there is different amount of fatwas or verdicts that actually have to be, given in order for it to become like, how many did you guys have to write in your institution?
The required amount was 400 in 2 years.
What? 400? Allahu Akbar. Mufti Abdullah, how many do we have?
No, the question for Mufti Muaz is, how many did you do?
Brother. That's the question of Abu Bakr radiallahu anh. What did you leave behind? Not what you bring, brother.
Yeah. We had 300 in 2 years.
We had 200. Allahu Akbar.
Yo, bro.
Oh my God. Mufti Umar Sahab, assalamu alaikum rahmatullah. We were asking about Darul Ifta and how many fatwas did you have to write in order to finish or tabweeb or other works. So we're looking at the different institution of how many did we have to write.
Walaikum salam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. You asked about how many fatwas we were supposed to write to finish our degree, right?
Yes, yes.
It was at minimum 100 fatwa about fiqhul ma'amulat, Islamic trade and finance, and one maqala.
Because Mufti Sahib, your specialization was fiqh mamalat, just business and transactions. So you had to focus specifically on those.
Yes, and 15 articles in, we have a magazine, Sharia and Business. So it was requirement to write at least 15 to 20 articles published in that magazine.
Oh, wow. Subhanallah. Mufti Sahib, Abdullah Sahib, the question from Brother Kevin is, and what are these names we hear about Mawlana Imam and Alim?
These are just nowadays. These are just a person who finishes the course, like a person who's memorized the Quran. He's finished the course of Hifz, so we call him a Hafiz. A person who's finished the traditional Alim course, which is between 5 to 8 years or 9 years. It's different for different institutions. We call that person an Alim or a Maulana. It's just a name that we give him. It's after a certain course we give that person the title. Like a person who's finished his PhD, we give them the title of doctor, just like that. And a person who's finished Ifta course or Mufti course, we give them the title of Mufti. So these are just titles for the person who's finished that specific course. That's it.
Sure. So Maulana and Imam usually, which even though they take specific titles now for the one who congregates or lead the congregation or Maulana itself, but I guess it depends on different areas as well, right? I think different countries, different places also use titles in different ways. Mufti Anas mentions, and he says, Quran Made Easy by Mufti Afzal Hussain Riyas is also a good translation as well. Yeah, that's definitely amazing. I think it's also in 3 parts and then 30 parts as well, and 1 part as well. So that's great. Brother Ziaddin asks if the Mufti course is equivalent to a PhD level education. Mufti Umar Sa, mashallah, Mubarak, congratulations. You recently finished your MBA as well and other degree. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala increase for you in inshallah in this world and akhirah. With the Islamic degree of Ifta or Mufti, is it equivalent to a level of PhD education in Islamic education?
In some institutions it is.
You Mufti Muhammad?
In some institutions they recognize that as a PhD, or they issue PhD degrees, doctorate. Others issue masters. So it depends on the institute itself what they're considering that as.
Ziya, where we graduated from, where myself, I finished my Ifta, that's where would they actually give it as an equivalent of a PhD degree in Karachi, where Mufti Abdullah Sahab also, mashallah, did is that. Mufti Muhammad, the question is, what is the meaning of fiqh? That's your expertise.
That's a long discussion, but simply put, the word fiqh comes from the word faqafha, which would mean to understand. And fiqh, putting it into simple term, when we say fiqh today, it refers to legal jurisprudence, legal law.
So when we talk about fiqh itself, and its implementation, is it just a part of, just like when you're studying different portions of Islam, like seerah you're studying or other portions? So fiqh is a part of the larger conversation of information or knowledge?
Correct.
Alhamdulillah. That's great. We didn't get any more questions as of yet, mashallah. I think people are just not sending questions. You guys have any questions that you Mufti Abdullah Sahib, you actually had shared one of the questions. Okay, what is an appropriate age to introduce children to fiqh?
I think it depends. So fiqh is in different levels. There's many different levels to fiqh. I mean, there's fiqh that it's the basic fiqh, which everyone should know as they're growing up, like how to make wudu, so even making wudu comes under the category of fiqh. How to pray salah comes under that category. How to do anything, any ruling within Islam comes under that category. So the basic stuff, the very, very basic rulings, such as what I just mentioned, should be introduced at a young age, maybe 6 years old, 5 to 6 years old. So my son is 6, and now he's learning how to pray salah, he's learning how to make wudu, and so on and so forth. So I would say that is not a bad time to start. And as they grow older, they can go into more advanced studies.
Jazakallah khair. Mufti Muasab, a question that has come a lot from a lot of young people, and they ask this question, is it okay to have a crush on someone? Someone you saw and then develop feelings for that individual without even meeting that person or talking to that individual. What would be the guidance in those particular conditions?
A person is not responsible for the feelings that he naturally gets. So if a person naturally has a crush on someone else, there's no sin in that. But the sin comes about, or the responsibility comes about, in how he acts how he acts on that crush that he has, or that feeling. If he takes that crush and he diverts it towards a halal way, in other words, he gets married, he proposes, then he'll be rewarded for that. But on the other hand, if he was to use that in a haram way and he'd go out and engage in illicit relationships, then he would be sinful, he would be punished.
Okay, follow-up question to that. I like the answer, but you said divert it to a halal way. How is a 14 or 15-year-old supposed to get married? This is something that a lot of kids ask me, like, okay, I like this girl, or I like this guy, and I told them, get married then. But this is the exact question that they come up with. Well, I'm only 14 or 15. How am I supposed to get married? So what is your answer to that?
In that case, they would have to control themselves, as any other temptations that we might have. If you're not of age to get married yet, or if it's not possible for you to get married, then you would have to control your desires, curb your desires, consider fasting. That's if it's in this case. But overall, you would try to curb your desires to the best of your abilities, and try to stay away from committing any sins.
Jazakallah khair. And unfortunately, I mean, this is one of the toughest things that our children go through, where everything is exposed to them. Literally, they go to school where not doing it is considered something bad. They're looked down upon. So it's a very big challenge, but that's the challenge that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala put them in, and they have to pass it, inshallah.
Correct. Sister Aisha, with regards to the fiqh question, asks and says, how do we explain discrepancy in fiqh to kids? I often have my son say, so and so is Muslim. Why can they do ...
Oh, good question. I don't know. How do you explain difference of opinion? Well, you can just simply tell them, well, their imam told them they can do something like that. If it's a kid, I think usually they would understand that.
No.
But it is something that I don't think a 6-year-old would be asking those types of questions, but she's obviously, I'm assuming that the child is maybe 9, 10, 11 years old. And at this time, you can explain to them in very, very simple terms that there is difference of opinion, and some Muslims do this and some Muslims do that, and both of them are correct. But as long as it's within the boundaries of Islam, I guess that's how you would explain it, but in your own words. Allahu a'lam. What are your thoughts?
You can give them an example with legal laws. We as Americans don't follow the legal laws of the UK, or someone in the UK doesn't follow American law. We're not going to say the British law is wrong while the American law is correct. It's just that this law is applicable to us, that law is applicable to them. So explain it from a legal perspective, that's a legal system. And these fiqh do not cause friction between us or the differences. Rather, it's just diversity amongst the believers.
Interesting. I think that's such a, because I think the big reason here, Mufsab, is that we are growing up in a community where we have so many people with so many different backgrounds and cultures and fiqh, and that's why it's so important for our children to really know what's going on, and and if they're following something. But I guess that's very, very important that we laid in such a way. Mufti Abdullah Sahab, I know it's 9:20. You have to head out. We got another question. Feel free to head out at your discretion. Sister Asma asks a question. She says, I heard of this kid who got into an argument with another kid, and when this kid couldn't win, then he said, well, you can't have girlfriend, but I can. The other kid was Hindu Indian. Now the Muslim kid is asking for the response. He couldn't answer. So in this case, how do we teach our children to defend? I really feel that I know with these kids and what makes successful or what makes a person happy, I guess it is the principles that need to be guided to our children. At the end of the day, they'll always have these issues. They'll always have good company. They'll always have bad company. But I think at the end of the day, our children really needs to feel that what is the true success, or what is the true failure, what is the true, a person who has made it, right? Or a true person who is on the path of goodness. So I think with regards to children, it's all about the heart itself. I know I always discuss this with parents, is that you'll always have flaws, you'll always have mistakes, you always have shortcomings in portions of your child's life. But if we try correcting these things, they may not be possible till the heart actually is properly built. So as parents, we really need to build the heart of our children to what is correct and what is right, and making sure from the very beginning, making it very clear to our children that it's not always about majority doing the right thing, doing something to be correct. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in most places in the Quran mentions that there will be only a few that will be truthful, only few that will be righteous. And in many cases, there will be a majority of individuals that will not be unrighteous. And so I think we really have to build our children upon the principles of what is correct and what is right and what is wrong. And once the principles are built, then these children will be able to make the right and wrong decision. Mufti Abdullah Sahab, what do you think before you depart?
Yeah, that's a tough question, man. For us to answer is very easy, but for the child to go through something like that, and it becomes a case of honor, I would say, for the child, where he lost an argument, and especially such an argument where he knows he's right, but the majority is against him. It becomes a very, very difficult situation to navigate for the child. In this situation, I would try to explain to the child that, you can say to the other kid, or even not saying to the other kid, just understand what is the purpose of having a boyfriend or a girlfriend. What do you get out of it? So once the child understands that there's actually no purpose to it, if the purpose is to get married or whatever, then do it. But they're obviously not going to do it. But we have to explain these principles to the child, just like you said, and it's not as easy as 1, 2, 3. This is a very difficult situation to navigate for the child himself or herself. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala make it easy for them, inshallah. The best thing that we can explain to them is those types of people don't need your time, and associate with people who appreciate you for who you are and what you act upon.
That is so proper, man. That is so important. One of my good friends, Sheikh Sarfraz Baqis, who is the Imam here in Queens, he mentions very beautifully with regards to Sister Aisha's question, is that the difference is not with the usul and fundamental aspects of the faith, but rather it's with branches issues. This by itself is a mercy of Allah. Ikhtilaf al-ulama rahmah. And that is, I think, a very valid and beautiful point that Sheikh Sarfraz mentioned, Sister Aisha's question, that when we speak to our children, that there's no issues in the foundations and fundamental aspects of our faith. The difference could be in the way that someone says Ameen loudly or someone doesn't say loud, but the basic of our deen and our Islam remains the same, right? SubhanAllah, that's a good point.
All right, so I'm going to head out, inshallah. Jazakumullah khair.
Wayakum, inshallah. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala reward you and bless you, Mufti Sahab, for being with us. Sister Misha asks a question, says, what advice do you have for a young loved one who left Islam and you want to be there and help guide them back? Guidance comes from Allah and from within, but what can a person do to support them?
I'll leave that for you, inshallah.
Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. So I know that this is something that I talked about last week in one of our khutbas, and I was speaking about this, Mufti Saab, last week. And not unrelated to this question, I was saying that when I was growing up here in New York in the late 90s, and early 2000, when we were ending our high school, the biggest concern for our parents at that time for Muslim students or children were, I hope my child is studying well. They are not hanging out with opposite genders. They are not involved in drugs, meaning whatever it is, that was the major concern for many, many parents at that time. It's not even been 2 decades that the entire situation has completely changed. The concern for many parents now is, will my child even stay upon deen or not, right? Will my child even stay upon deen is the question that parents are actually asking now, because every single day, every single moment, every single time their iman, their faith is being tested. Internal issues, external issues, you name it, all of this is impacting them. And with Sister Misha's question, and thank you so much, Jazakallah khairan, for asking this, and you said love one, and I love the point is that when you see something wrong in someone, please don't abandon them. Don't leave them. A lot of time when we see something wrong in a person, we want to completely isolate. We want to abandon this individual. Only leave that situation when you know that you yourself will be impacted by that wrong, and you won't be able to avoid that wrong itself. But in the case that you feel that you could be of any positive influence in the life of someone, please don't leave a person who is involved in sins, because your little support and help can take them out of that wrong. Because as we all know, that haram, wrong, and evil can never give sukoon to a person's heart. They may feel that enjoyment, they may feel that thrill, they may feel that excitement, they may feel that all that goodness that is happening. But wallahi, nothing but the obedience of Allah can give the heart sukoon and comfort. So that individual who maybe indulged in anything wrong, be it someone who might have left the faith and might have gone away from them, it is our responsibility to be consistent in speaking to them, talking to them, caring them, loving them, and listening to them. And our akhlaq, our manners, and our interaction with them will one day wake them up and remind them that, you know what, this iman and deen in that person has something to do with their good character and their moral. So when it comes to an individual, and I'm going to pull a question back up, is that when you have someone young who had left the fold of Islam, what can you do to give them back? Please keep your connection. Please keep a relationship. Don't abandon them. Don't disgrace them. Do not be a person that completely isolates them, but be a source of a reason of speaking to this individual. Keep yourself connected with them. Keep yourself as a person, even on their speed dial, to be with them if they need you for anything. And it is always from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that something of goodness will change the hearts of that individual. And of course, continuous dua, continuous ta'alluq, and of course, your akhlaq and manners will always take over and win over the hearts. Mufti Saab, what do you suggest? Is there anything that comes to your heart?
No, I think what you've said is fine.
Jazakallah khair. Okay. Sister Aisha goes, Misha Khan, consistently make dua for them. Yes, definitely. Our ta'alluq, our dua for them. Brother Farhan Ahmed asks a question. Assalamu alaikum. After someone passes, may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala make it easy for all. Ameen. How does one compensate for missed salah and missed fasts?
There's two possibilities. Either the person made a wasiyah, made a bequest that after he passes away, the outstanding prayers and fast should be compensated for, or he didn't. If he did, then it will be taken from 1/3 of his wealth after the funeral expenses and debts are paid off, and then you would compensate for that. If he did not, or there is more than 1/3, then the heirs may voluntarily on their own, from their own money, compensate for that on behalf of the deceased. So the compensation for each salah that is missed would be equivalent to the sadaqat al-fitr amount. Likewise, for each fast that's missed, one sadaqat al-fitr amount for each day would also be necessary.
And when the sadaqat al-fitr amount is taken out, either from the 1/3 of the person if they had given the wasiyat or bequest, and if they had not, then the children or the heirs do it from themselves. Who is eligible of receiving that money? Can that money be placed in those who are a recipient of zakat? Can that be placed inside masjid fund? Can that be, where can that true utilization of that money be put?
It must be given to someone who is eligible to receive zakah, the poor and the needy.
Okay, so so the amount that is taken out for the compensation of the missed prayers and missed fast should be allocated to those who are recipient of zakat. If someone puts that in the pool of their zakat money, would that be okay?
It'll be fine.
Okay, Jazakumullah khair. What's up? Someone asked, Brother Rauf Hanif asked, Assalamu alaikum, any advice on the simplest format to memorize the Quran? I need to know that too.
There is no simple format. It differs from person to person. But what I found easy for myself was to take an ayah and then to break it up into portions and keep repeating small portions. For example, you'll take one line, break it up into two parts, repeat the first part multiple times first with looking. Then close the mushaf and try to recite that portion 3 times without looking. If you can manage, then you move on to the next part. You do the same thing for the second part. Then you join both of the parts together and then repeat that while looking 3 times, then without looking 3 times. If you are able to do it, then you proceed on to the next part. The one thing that's important is maintain consistency. Don't do half page one day and then the next week you're chilling, you're not doing anything. But when you start, especially for adults who don't have time to dedicate the entire day or hours, then start with a few lines every day. Start with what you can manage every day and go on, even if it's just 1 line, 2 lines every single day. Our goal is not to finish, but our goal is to try, and even if we happen to pass away in that moment while we're memorizing, we hope that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will raise us amongst the huffaz.
Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar, subhanallah, Jazakallah khair. That is so amazing. I remember there was a brother, Mufti Saab, in our own area, elderly brother, and he said he would drive from one place to another. He is a physician, and he said whenever I had traffic, I loved it the most because I memorized the most, because I was stuck and I was reading it again and again. And subhanAllah, even in his 60s and 70s, Allah blessed him that he memorized large portions of the Quran because he made that as a part of his life, that I was going to do it. Mutsab, the last question that we will take, I know that we would prepare for our salah after this, inshallah. Now, Sister Aisha asked, what is the best form of sadaqah jariyah that can be performed for the deceased?
Sadaqah jariyah refers to that charity which the reward of which is perpetual. The best sadaqah would be something where it remains for the longest period of time. So for example, if you build a water well for a group of poor people, or for a place where there's poor and needy people, as long as people drink water from that well, the person that built it, as well as the person for whom the isal thawab was done, they will continue to receive the rewards of that. Another option could be assisting in building the masjid. As long as that masjid is there, as long as people are praying in that masjid, you would continue to receive the rewards. Similarly, sponsoring a student of knowledge, so sponsoring a person trying to become a hafiz. As long as he recites the Quran, you would continue to receive the rewards. So you try to diversify your portfolio and see where your benefits will be better off long term.
So I love the concept that you said, diversify the portfolio. I love it. Why? Because people are always talking about their portfolios, but not for akhirah. So I just want to quickly close it off with this, is that with your input again is the famous hadith. The Prophet ﷺ said, when a person passes away, in qata amaluhu, their actions are finished, except in the case of sadaqatul jariyah, knowledge that they leave behind, and waladun salih, awlad, and children that is righteous. So when it comes to the second point, Mufti Sahib, when it says ilmun yantafi'u biha, knowledge that they leave behind, is it their own practice knowledge that they taught individuals, or could it be considered as maybe they supported an institution or place, or people became ulama and became huffaz, and then they practiced and then they preached? Have ulama mentioned anything with regards to that?
All these would be included in that as well.
Allahu Akbar. I know that you would never say this, but you have an amazing institution that you run as a part of Al-Kawthar, an institution, as you're teaching as well, right? I think you're teaching there.
Okay.
I would love people to support that program. If you can, Mufti Sahib, if I know you wouldn't, but if you can kindly share the link to the work that these sisters and alimat and ulama are doing, and I know that it's a continuous sadaqah jariyah that institution is doing. I know that they were looking to have a own particular space right now too, right?
Correct.
And if anyone would like to support that, subhanallah, it's such a great work that is happening, and mashallah, it's run by our sister, our alimat, who are doing an amazing job, running underneath the supervision of one of the shuyukhs from UK. I heard, Mufti Sahib.
Correct.
And you guys have course all the way towards the last year for our sisters becoming alimat.
Inshallah, from after Eid, we'll be opening the final year.
Oh, Dora Hadith, Allahu Akbar. So there will be sisters who will be able to study from the beginning all the way towards the end and learn Bukhari and graduate as ulama locally here.
Yes.
Are you teaching anything in Dora Hadith the last year?
Not confirmed yet, but we'll find out inshallah soon.
Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar. That is an amazing. And Musab, is this institution also online as well?
No, physically only.
Oh, this is only physically for individual to be present. Sister Aisha, is this an online institute for women as well? I think it's in person, right?
Yes.
Oh, okay, and it's in Queens, I think you mentioned once.
Yes. Yes.
Okay, and if you can kindly share the link as brothers and sisters could support this, and this could be an amazing sadaqah jariyah for our brothers and sisters to support these institutions of ilm in America, run by scholars and people that are trusted, and may Allah begin. When do the courses begin? Where they are located?
I believe they should be starting late August or early September.
Okay. And the courses, Mufti Sahib, are from the first year alim course all the way towards the last year. And how long is this course?
I believe it's 6 years.
6-year course.
The Hifz program. They also have the Nazira program.
Oh, they have a Hifz and Nazir program as well. Do they have like a bridge program for the sisters, which is only like a 1-year program or something like that, or they just have a longer term program?
I know they do have a few programs for adults and different seminary programs. I think it would be best if you contact them directly and find out what's available at the moment.
And this is run by sisters, right? Some alimat sisters who are running this institution?
Yes, yes.
Wow, this is huge, man. May Allah reward these sisters for doing amazing work in America and running this institutions by themselves. And you find the brothers and ulama, mashallah, doing it, but from a sister's perspective, running an entire institution here in New York, this is amazing. May Allah accept their efforts and give them ikhlas and istiqamat and steadfastness, inshallah. Mufti, thank you so much for your time. May Allah bless you. May Allah reward you for all that you are doing, inshallah. And hopefully we'll catch you next week and keep us and the entire Ummah in your dua. With this, assalamu alaikum warahmatullah.
Wa alaikum assalam.
Mufti, share the link. Someone asked for the link again.
I'll share the link.
Jazakallah. Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum assalam.